discussing sustainable and climate-smart agricultural practices. And we had Rest Kanju from Indalo Inclusive, Nekesa Wafula from Sija, Ms. Wale Zingizi, an entrepreneur leading Kaya Nuts, Bankole Oleruntuba, Nigeria Innovation Climate Center, Ebenezer Amadi from Bopink, and the session was moderated by David from E4Impact. So the team discussed the concept of sustainability, and we had different interpretations and implementations of this concept in the different organizations. So the team discussed that, an innovation, are we together? All right, great. So if you're an innovator, if you're a responsible innovator who you're considering the environment, people, and planet, then there's always intersection of making profit from that deliberate decision. Then there was also an idea of, not even an idea, but a concept that the innovations that are coming out from the different quarters need to be focused on the users. And I think this is something that also emerged during the previous session in the morning. And so as you're coming up with these innovations, communicate to the users what is the impact of the innovations that you're rolling out to the market. Then sustainability is all about inclusion in the community. And as you're including the community, it's also starting with yourself, all right? What are those simple things that we can do within our organizations? And I think NCIC shared a couple of things they've done, which are very interesting. So they say they have not bought paper probably for the past 2 years. There's no need for paper. Can you be electronic? When they're doing their gifting, they're very deliberate. They give green gifts. So what are those small things that you can start as you roll out? And when you talk to communities, you're starting from a point of experience and scaling that out. Then focus on the triple bottom line, people, planet, and profit. As you're solving a problem for the people, how is it impacting the planet? Are you making reasonable economic value from that? Then innovation is a continuous process. Even for enterprises who you could consider to be mature, it's always a process of product development and iterating. But also this process requires funding that is aligning to this process. It doesn't end. Then we looked at behavioral change. It's critical because now we have so many innovations that are almost changing the way people have been consuming different products. So there's need to do a lot of awareness creation for the consumers so that we are able to all build a collective sustainable agricultural sector. Some of the recommendations from that group was to identify the right investors who have a similar thesis to what you're doing. Because if I'm not interested in green innovations, there's no way I'd be speaking to you. So how do you identify the right investors for this? Then for agricultural waste or any waste that we are generating, can we think about other ways that can possibly feed as a raw material to other sectors? And we had an example from Bopink where they've come up with the circular toolkit. You simply key in the resources or the waste that you have, and it will generate a couple of ideas for you to consider into your business around circularity. Then another interesting and I think very important point is building solutions around research that is science-backed. It makes it a bit more easier to validate this when you have a problem that has been well researched. And this was actually coming from SIGAR, and I think it's built on also the experience that they've had. Lastly is for entrepreneurs, we discussed ESG. Is it something that is sexy, a new trend, or it's something that is important for organizations to consider? And so we said, entrepreneurs at every stage, even if you're a startup, these things need to be inbuilt in your business. It doesn't come much later where you're simply patching it. And Indalo shared a toolkit that they have. We hope we'll get a link, REST, and access to this so that we can share with the rest of the team. The other recommendation is, could we have a database, especially for the people in the universities who are doing some amazing work in research, so that there's a way that an entrepreneur can simply tap into that to commercialize. If an investor is looking for something interesting, they're able to see this is the database, and you select and say this is aligning to what our fund is funding. Then some of the other things was simple adoption of low-cost technologies, things that do not cost as much, but they would have a huge impact on the environment or on the people. Again, we had an example of Nigeria with the, what are they called? Generators, right? So they say that's why they're very loud. They have to shout over the generators. But if you have, green solutions, then probably the volume would come low and saves you quite a bit in terms of money. Lastly, we said ESG, it's an important topic, especially in the times that we are living. We even have corporates or even entrepreneurs who are starting to hire these kinds of skills. How do you communicate that you're a bit more responsible around the environment, the social and governance issue? So I think this was the general overview from Group 1 on sustainability. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that very succinct summary of the discussion in Group 1. Now, for the rest of us who are not part of Group 1, is there any issue or point that you wish could be clarified further? Or that you want to add, if you're not part of Group 1, on what they've just shared with us in terms of a summary of what they discussed? Any questions or suggestions on the recommended actions? All right, so it was quite clear. Let's then move on to Group 2. Group 2, our rapporteur.
Okay, thank you. I'm Eke Leonard. I work here at E4 Impact. I think in many forums I've introduced myself and people have confused me with Nigeria. I don't know anybody from Nigeria. Do I look like a Nigerian? Or is it the name? Okay, I think for Group 2, we were looking at policy regulatory framework today when we were in class that consider yourself as top cream of society. I want to believe that people who are in that room were top cream of the society. This issue on responsive and flexible policies. I think across the board there were issues in terms of creating responsive policies across the board. Then there was concise definition of SMEs across Africa signed to AU framework. I think there was a representative from the AU who highlighted that I think they have come up with a SME strategy and they are trying to align this strategy with the policy within African AU states. Then targeted finance approaches, financial options specific to agribusiness. I think they all agreed that there is need for targeted finance approaches within state African countries to develop approaches that are target specific, particularly to agribusiness. Then I've also talked about the AU SME strategic framework, continental, which is supposed to be in cohesion with SME strategies across Africa. I think what they are doing, they want to promote, to make sure that the SME strategy that is AU oriented is cohesive within all African states. Then data and evidence policy development and implementation. One of the key issues that came out is sometimes we come up with a policy that are not data backed up, that are not evidence driven. So there is need, as we come up with the policy, we have data that's supporting that. Then we also have had issues on using practical learning to inform policy formulation. The representative from WFP came up clearly that they are doing some work, good practical work in the field. Then how do we now, how do we then use that practical work in terms of policy influence? Then we have the sector-specific work to influence policy, that is co-creating entrepreneurship through private sector-based evidence. That's also, I've talked about it and earlier, in cohesion and also integrating all the the sector-based, and also integrating the information from all stakeholders in coming up and developing policy. Then prioritize policy interventions through programming. One of the key issues that have come up in the discussion is sometimes we come up with policies that are too general. We need to narrow down and be very specific to whatever we intend to design and also implement in terms of targeting people. Then design thinking in policy making process, which will be human-centered. As we develop our policies in our respective countries, are they human-centered? Are we thinking about the people, or are we thinking about something else? And yet these policies affect people. Some of the gaps that have been analyzed were as follows. High financing barriers was one of the gaps within the policy development atmosphere. Then we had Startup Policy Act lacking in some of African countries. I think this came up very clearly within the AU Commission. As AU is trying to develop the SME strategy, they realized that some of the African countries are not aligning their strategies to AU, hence now creating creating barriers in terms of integrating the trade and integrating this policy within the nation. Then we had inadequate implementation of existing strategy. I think this also came out clearly that some of Africans, me being a Kenyan, we are good in writing. Sometimes we write a lot of books, we do a lot of research, but in terms of implementation, becomes a problem. Then capacity gaps within SMEs to meet standard in accessing market. I think this was also an issue in terms of now the market fragmentation. We realize that some SMEs have developed products, but now they lack the standards to meet maybe the global or within the regional markets. Then limited access to extension service. This came out clearly within the agribusiness space. Then data deficient in policy development and implementation. I think I've highlighted that under the key points. Then fragmented markets, limited across border trade. I think this issue came up in terms of as we are fundraising to scale our businesses. There was issue of fragmented markets. We are unable to reach other markets. Then weak stakeholder engagement in the policy design. This also came out such that sometimes the corporate or the government people sit in a boardroom, develop policies that are not people-centered. Then limited inclusivity of Francophone AU member state. This one came out clearly, and I think one of the members was complaining that some of the research, some of the data that were being aired were just centered on Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria, but we were not listening about Congo. We were not getting data from those South African countries, West African countries that are French-speaking. I think that was also a major gap. Then some of the key recommendations. One, there's need for private-public sector engagements in policy development and implementation of practical policies. Then improving access to information, leveraging on technology, i.e. I think there is a toolkit that was created by UK Tech Hub. If we can leverage on that, and also within the extension service, just to make sure that the SMEs, the farmers, are access to information and also influence the policy in terms of what they are doing. Then implement monitoring and accountability mechanisms within AU member states to ensure active and effective policy execution. As we have said, sometimes we develop policies, but in terms of implementation is the problem. So one of the recommendations is to develop maybe a monitoring and accountability mechanism that will just make sure that there's implementation taking place. Then use evidence-based data for policy formulation. As I've highlighted, sometimes we develop policies that are not human-centered. But when we use data-based evidence, then we are able now to address the human-centered policies. Then increase access to affordable finance within SMEs, tailored finance product. I think this was issue across the board. SMEs within agribusiness space struggle to access finance. So there is need to develop a product that is specific to agribusiness. I think that is all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that very clear presentation from the policy group. Any questions, comments to what they have presented? All right, so again, I think very clear recommendations, steps that are being provided that should then be able to see us starting to address some of the challenges that have been referred to during the discussions. It is interesting to see how the work that you were doing in the groups was building up to the sessions that we had yesterday as well as earlier on in the morning, and kind of now bringing the two strands together such that we have clarity on where we should then go. I'm now going to be inviting George to take us through the next steps, which is going to be initially a summary of what were some of the key messages that we've picked up so far throughout our proceedings, and also the recommendations that were coming through, which we can then be able to work on as we proceed. Yeah. Okay. All right. So he's still just getting ready in terms of the. So what you see is on the slides that George is going to be presenting, they don't necessarily capture the key recommendations come through from the two breakout sessions. But eventually there will be a process of now merging, and some of them they tend to be repetitive. So there will be needs to now streamline the entire report such that we
having Murphy's Law issues, which is typical of such meetings. But as we wait, maybe I would want to just hear from the floor, from anyone, what their takeaways were from this meeting. If I don't get any volunteers, then I will, you know what, the inevitable happens. So maybe perhaps we start with someone who wants to share, and microphones are here, what their major takeaways were, and we see whether we can. Okay, there we go. All right, George, please.
Thank you, facilitator. I think through the last 2 days I'm hearing this word coming up all the time: database, databases in relation to many things, you know. There seems to be, in terms of access to data on SMMEs, in terms of where to, a source of database for SMMEs that we can log into. So there's two challenges, as anyone will tell you about databases: the accuracy of the information that goes into a database and the ability of people to access that database in itself. So it's fine to have the database. And I think AUDA-NEPAD would probably focus on encouraging the setting up of databases for all this information needs that we've come up with. But we also need to be able to drive people to understand, a small-scale farmer to know that in Central African Republic, this is the database, indicators and so on. So there's a challenge there. And it's just, I'm just making a point that where Africa is data deficient, we know that. But I think AU needs to start thinking quite almost on a separate line about just encouraging data sharing, data storing, data access, data retrieval, data updating on so many aspects, on a very wide range of data needs.
Thank you, George. I think that's indeed very true. The quality of data access, the data asymmetry, information asymmetry, that also links to the penetration of internet access. Anyway, you have been saved by the PowerPoint. In the meantime, So I will not go through everything, but the point is just to pick the key highlights of what, starting with what George has said. And I think we started off very well with Director Amin noting the importance of the fundamental issues around food security to closing the gap between agriculture and industrialization. And of course, that is certainly true if we are to. So that certainly came out. Agribusiness incubation, and I would say acceleration, right? And it talks to a different point again around the standardization of the value, the services that the organizations in the ecosystem provide, right? So right now everybody is doing everything, and like the study says, you know, I'm a one-man show, I'm an incubator, I'm this and that. So agribusiness incubation is growing and concentrated in countries. Those countries that we've just mentioned, I think there's actually a very good report on startups that also talks to that. Technology, I think we saw, I think the breakaway here and all through the conversation that we've had, technology is an important element to get us to the necessary solutions. But with that, the point that George has raised around data, bring new challenges to it, and we had here today in the earlier session around issues of data. Gender inclusion shows a significant regional variation with specific barriers for women. Very important point that he was talking about. I think the key thing here is understanding the contextual variation. If I might to bring my own experience within the health accelerator, which, as I said earlier, we're pivoting. We've been very intentional in making sure that women-led growth companies are in, but you really have to look hard for them to get them in. So yeah, you need to be intentional about what is driving that. Sustainability requires balanced focus on profitability, responsibility, and social equity. Again, important point, because we all are singing the sustainability song in different tones. So that's something that we need to understand and have a common understanding and appreciation around it. Public-private partnerships, very important. We were just talking at lunch, and one of the key points is you have to work with the private sector to get the necessary solutions. And that partnership is essential. So we need to have that collaboration. I think this is one of the key intentions of this discussion that we're having today. And certainly we've seen this private sector, we've seen research institutions come on board, and that's something you will see further on in the actions that we need to implement. Very important point on traditional and indigenous knowledge systems holding significant value. Remember and this is dear to us because of the homegrown solution, because our accelerator is about local solutions, local scalable solutions. We have the solutions, local and scalable. So indigenous and traditional knowledge certainly needs to come in there. We will share this, so and a report will be generated, so I need not go into each and every one thereof. So if we could have the next slide, please. All right, here we go. So what were the challenges that we identified through the course of the discussion? And there were many. Gender, again, was a major issue that was highlighted, participating in agribusiness. I think there was a very emphatic point this morning around how hard it is to find gendered businesses, particularly within tech, agri-tech. And I think that cuts across, indeed. Heavy reliance on food imports, certainly the vulnerability we have. We saw when the war came about and how the inflation element changed with respect to food. Of course, food is a key component of our basket, so that shot up pretty high. And even distribution of ESOs is a limited and specialized agribusiness agriculture. I think we need to really understand why that happens. And that's the data is there and it's raw and it shows us that. Again, it was a point that was raised earlier and it is being emphasized again, fragmented approaches to sustainability across different market segments. So this relates to the earlier point of what is their common understanding of what sustainability is. Policy implementation gaps between continental frameworks and national execution, huge problem, huge one. And if the ACFTA is to come true, that gap needs to be narrowed. So for example, if we look at the SADC region, which that gap probably is a bit less than it is in other areas, probably even with the COMESA region also. So the variability is just huge. And then when you come, even in those instances where there is alignment between the REC and national, actual practice is somewhat completely different from what you find on paper. So for example, if you go to the border between Tanzania and Uganda and Kenya, and you have a common window, and you are supposed to be able to do something in one stop, and we've said we are within the ACFTA, so we should give preference. It doesn't happen, right? So practical, and what you have, huge gap. Technology adoption barriers, high costs, bandwidth costs in Kenya and Congo, complete difference. So what does that have as an impact? Availability of technology, penetration, etc. And again, you can see the issue of data management and protection again arises, particularly as we move to digitize things, right? We are moving in a lot of that data, if the policies are not there, is being siphoned off to other places, sits in other countries, have no control. So what do we do about this huge issue as we move to use technology as an enabler? Let's move to the next one, please. Right, as always, there are solutions and opportunities within those challenges that we find. I hope that as we leave here, we have a common agreement that we will build stronger partnerships and collaborative networks. I've had many discussions. I think we've agreed we will move in tandem in this space, and we hope that we've had a number of exchanges, so the collaboration will continue. We hope to develop standardized metrics. I think this is a big chunk of work on its own, to standardize the approaches on what the ecosystem organizations that support the ecosystem do, so that we know that there is value addition. Otherwise, the briefcase story is coming up again, right? So everybody has they're doing something in their little corner and they're churning out. Appropriate technology, we need to implement appropriate technology with focus on accessibility. Important point, accessibility. Otherwise, the users in our contexts in Agri really need to find that easy access. Data management, again, an opportunity for us to pursue that. Develop targeted support mechanism for women entrepreneurs. I think this is definitely something that we can not build in, as we normally say, but be intentional about, right? Even having literally accelerator cohorts that are specific to women, and specifically, women either in a particular age or the youth or that side. Integration of traditional financing systems, very important discussion. I was in the policy one, and we mentioned the merry-go-rounds, they're called Stockfelds, Chama in Kenya, and the likes. Really, I mean, they're fascinating. We tend to assume that the amount of money that sits in those informal indigenous financial mechanisms is amazing. So how can we get those to work in a more formalized? They de-risk a lot of these projects, and they can. Develop evidence-based policy information framework. This one, we've been at it, and we need to get better rather than talk again about it, because it's been bandied around for some time. Creation of bundled extension services input. I think that is just really making extension services available, and the establishment of homegrown school feeding programs as a market mechanism. I think that's an important point because that's a market in itself. And yeah, solutions and opportunities. Can we go to the next slide? We see what cross-cutting priorities. So, evidence-based policy development linking to research implementation, and I'm looking at my wonderful friend there because some of it's the work that they are putting out is really important and needs to talk to and feed to the startup acts and the likes in different regions. So certainly we will be connecting with you with regard to that. Integration of traditional knowledge with modern agricultural practices, certainly. This is as alluded to in the previous slide. Development of appropriate sustainability metrics for different skills. I don't know whether it is development or using what was already in place and packaging them for a standard approach, so that we can all be talking the same thing. And creation of inclusive financial mechanism incorporating traditional systems, the point I just alluded to before. Establishment of regional policy organization mechanisms. I would add into this, use existing and leverage the maximum existing mechanisms on policy harmonization. We have the REX, we have REX Plus, you know, so AUC, we can use those within. And even, if I might use the local context of Kenya, where we have the administrative units being counties, and there is a dissonance between the national and government in some instances, so that you standardize those across, and that can be talked to in every sector, I think, as and in different countries. Development of market-driven sustainability initiatives, and last but not least, creation of cross-border implementation frameworks, which already should be anchored on the ACFTA, right? Because we already have that as our overarching framework. M&E is an integral part of this, so we look at standardize how our impact is and assessing how do we assess that. Sustainability for performance metrics, development of traditional knowledge integration measures, and establishment of market development impact assessment. So M&E pretty much, I won't belabor this, that will be in the overall report, but how do we track what we're doing? Now, I think this is a really important bit about where we take this next and what comes out of here. And establishment of a collaborative network. I think we've agreed, most of us here, we've talked to FAO, talked to WFP, E for Impact, and the rest. We are welcoming you for us to create really a movement where we can work together. I alluded to the metrics, so I will not belabor that. Designing sector-specific programs, E for Impact as lead. I think this is really about also standardizing the work that we're doing in this space, such that we are clear about what the value additions are in the different buckets that we have. The issue of women's focused funding mechanism, again, is there, so there's need to really have that out. Designing gender-sensitive solutions. I think we should all embed this in our programming and the tech providers. Creating circular economy guidelines. I think UNIDO has already done this, by the way, if I'm not wrong. There should be something, I recall, having an interaction with them. And extension services reforms, of course, many of us are using really extension services that are adopted even likely from the colonial times, and they need to be updated to the modern tech-enabled farming and the likes. And we had you this morning around what that would look like. And then looking at indigenous knowledge works. So networks, I beg your pardon. again, we provide a ideation of who we think would be the champions in that. So let's move to the next one. Over the medium term, policy recommendations. My sister Bulelwa is there. She will lead us with on this, together with us. Creation of data management platforms. Homegrown school feeding programs. I think we already have that as a program within AUDA-NEPAD, and we work with, I think, FAO on that as well, and colleagues. Establish and strengthen women entrepreneurial network. I think we can have that as a subset of this networking opportunity that we're creating, the how we can think through, and designing the risking mechanisms as we had in the morning around and even around women. And then I cannot see the last one here, but maybe we can build on current summit and expand on. Okay, convening. This is it's hiding itself there, David. You see it. Okay, so I think we've agreed that there was value in this convening. Is that a yes? This lunch is doing as in. This lunch is doing as in. Even my voice can't do the magic anymore. Okay. Do we agree there is value in convening? You're still not up, guys. Do we agree that there is value in convening? Raise up your hand if you agree. I assume those on interpretation is not clear then, because the ones who are in interpretation are not raising up their hands. Anyway, so okay, we've agreed convening is important, so we will make this is a commitment to make this an annual event or thereabouts. Who would like to be part of that convening? Who would like to be part of that convening? You see, when these are the people who sat back in the class when the teacher says raise up your hand, they're like half here. You're not sure what your answer is. Your hand should either be fully up or not. There is no halfway in between. It's a binary question. You're in or you're out. Okay, who's in? We're all in. All right, I like the person with the check has said we are all in. So if they don't put the money on the table, don't ask me. All right, anyway, we've agreed that. We just need to see how to structure that. With the support of New Zealand, we have some seed. My brother David has a big checkbook downstairs, which also he has brought to the table. My sister there from Agra has a big number that she will also be bringing in. But yeah, we will agree on this. We just need to agree also that in its form and scope, and we will have feedback on this, on how we can make it better, so that it enriches the program, and we probably won't have it in Nairobi. We will have it somewhere else. And by the way, you saw how the pop-up interpretation, how it works, right? Yeah, it's a pop-up store in the mall. That's how we do it. Anyway, back to the points. The convening will happen, and we will engage you as we go along. I wonder whether we have another. Yeah, all right, good. Next steps. Establish collaborative networks and partnerships. So this, by Q1 2025, we structure it and see how we can do that. The action on developing metrics, I think, is a little bit of work that we need to think through, right, and see how we can do that. We've agreed on the convening part. Establish technology adoption frameworks. By Q1, I think, again, that's a work package that needs to be unbundled and thought through. And then develop women-focused programs. That's something that I think the conversation will be carried in through the convenings that we have, so that we maintain that momentum. Create data sharing protocols. Again, we need to refine. This is just high-level thoughts, right, on the action. So we need to see how that can be done. Implement sustainable agriculture frameworks. these are actually there, Nagra is over there. We have CADAP 2 now. We had the discussion the other day. So the question is how we make that work, right? So that's why we need to revisit this and look at what is already in place and work with that. So maybe actually we should have had some of our CADAP colleagues here to talk to that aspect. Policy harmonization mechanisms, again, we convene the RECs to see how the ACFTA exactly create indigenous knowledge integration. Again, these work packages are somewhat there. We just need to bring the right people into the right space so that we can have the conversation in tandem. Next. Network development, I think this is no need to go for that now, but something that we will look at as we create this network and how we go forward. All right, so I think this is the next session. Yeah, so maybe let me thank the facilitator for giving me the opinion, and thank you very much for being attentive. Thank you.
Good. Thank you so much, George, for taking us through high-level summary on the key messages as well as recommendations and actions. Is there anything in particular that you feel might have been left out in the summary that George has just given? Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. I think this wasn't really touched upon very much over the past couple of days, but I just want to make a remark about big business, because obviously this meeting is about supporting domestic, small and medium scale agribusinesses and enterprises, but I think international and multinational business that's operating on the African continent has a role to play in this, in terms of financing, in terms of technical expertise, in terms of management skills, and I think it would be good to bring them into the picture to see how they can also partner and collaborate with this. Thanks.
Very, very important issue on the partnerships and the frameworks that we put in place. And I think it's important when we talk about these partnership frameworks to actually develop clear memorandums of understanding that also articulate the steps and the deliverables, the outcomes. Otherwise, it will all be talk. You know, yes, we want to create partnerships, we want to bring big businesses, but for big business, if they don't see progress from one point to the next, they will not engage, because they've got so many other things that they are running with. So we have to be very clear to say we want you on board to work with you, but these are the things that we want you to deliver. And these are the items that we will also in turn deliver on. Let's then meet every so often to evaluate whether or not we are making progress. And there has to be a benefit. I mean, the point made by Amin yesterday, business for business, you know, so they must see some tangible benefit that will come out of it. So it's not just corporate social responsibility, but it's also about some progress on the bottom line if they're going to take part in this. So I think, yes, very, very good point indeed. Any other burning points, key issues, high level, either on messages or recommended action we need to take note of? Okay, great. So perhaps we can then move on to the demos, because we're meant to have some session with the demos, and I hope they are ready for the work. Who's going to take us through that particular segment? Someone to introduce the demos for us? David? Isabella? Okay, all right. So, yep, we are going to have a quick
good afternoon once more. We have a chance to sample just a few. We say just a few because I think we have very many innovations from the different countries present. But we will have a chance to have an elevator pitch from about 4 enterprises. The first one is IPOP. IPOP is an enterprise that is doing value addition to African cereals, right? And I hope you've had a chance to sample some of the popcorn made out of millet and sorghum out there. So she's going to run us through her enterprise. You have about 5 minutes max. So this is just an introduction so that you know which tent you want to start with when we go to visit the booths. Thank you. So maybe just to give a quick overview of all the companies. Then we have pollen patrollers. Pollen patrollers are offering precision pollination, right? So when you do all the work that you've done, inputs in the farm, how do you ensure that you have a good harvest? Through precision pollination, and they have an IoT device that they will demonstrate how it works for us. Then we also have RARE. RARE is a woman-founded enterprise that are doing soil testing. They will take us through what it is that they do. And then we also have Ayub of Aquasense. We are saying we have a lot of limited resources, and they're trying to see how do we make these resources and use them efficiently in our farms. So they have an irrigation system that allows us to be able to time and use the water as and when we need. So these are the presentations that we'll be listening to. Welcome.
Good afternoon. I want to welcome you to IPOP Africa, where we bring back the glory of our ancient grains. I am Dora Mumanyi, and I am a co-founder at IPOP Africa. Next. Yes, so I want to tell you something we already know. In Kenya, we have more than 23 ASAL counties, and Tana River, Kitui County, where we work, are some of them. The irony in Tana River is that the mighty Tana River flows throughout the year, yet these counties suffer from food and nutrition insecurity, but they are also experiencing erratic rainfall. Sorry. And with climate change, we know the rainfall is becoming lesser and lesser, and farmers, smallholder farmers, are experiencing consecutive failed seasons, especially for maize that we always want to grow at the expense of other grains. And also showing the malnutrition rates in these ASAL counties, which are often higher than even at national level. Yet these counties have potential to grow sorghum or millet, which are traditional indigenous grains that are drought tolerant, but often generations who grew up knowing these grains, now they scorn away and they want to eat fashionably. So what does IPOP Africa do? IPOP Africa picks these grains from smallholder farmers to develop a multi-grain flour. We also develop a breakfast cereal and ready-to-eat snack products. And our snack products and our products are fortified through a food-to-food fortification process with 4 types of grains. And we are trying to align with the National Flour Blending Policy, which requires 10% of other grains to be incorporated in maize flour, smart grains that are drought tolerant, locally sourced, a local solution. Sorry. And so who are we targeting with these kind of snacks? Look at the urban population. In Kenya, for example, Nairobi, the urban area is about 4.3 million people. Why Nairobi? Why urban areas? Because we find that in urban areas, we are characterized by a fast-paced type of lifestyle. We are busy, and so we want to pick a convenient, healthy product. But now, and consumers are becoming more and more aware of healthy consumption, healthy snacking. We're also looking at about 200 households in the rural areas who do not benefit from the national fortification strategy of flour, and we're giving them a multi-grain flour which has incorporated other grains with the nutrients that are used in fortification. So our revenue model, we do trainings, we sell our products, but we also offer popping services because the popping technology is a high capital investment, initial, and then we also sell packaged grains. So we stock our products on Greenspoon. You can check and buy some of the products from Greenspoon. But we also have a One Snack, One Tree initiative. And what else do I want to tell you here? And so IPOP Africa is also facing competition, like many other businesses. But how we differentiate ourselves is trying to bring the ESG thing we've been talking about here today by promoting the environment through our One Snack, One Tree initiative. But we also want to use our local indigenous ingredients. Not when you're buying a product, you find some ingredients you don't even know. We're giving you the things you're used to. And then we're trying to make it as healthy as possible because the popping technology we use is an oil-free technology. And so our vision is to acquire a renovation space, which we are trying to renovate now. But we also want to move to the mainstream market and enter the school feeding program and substitute the common carbohydrate and protein with a high energy snack, but also diversify our products in Kenya and in other countries. So we are looking at fast-moving consumer goods like our products to serve most of the SDGs, the climate action SDG, to also reduce poverty, but also provide decent jobs while feeding the population sustainably. That's my team. And so join us as we snack healthier and as we snack greener.
Don't go away, don't go away. Excellent. So we need to help Dora in terms of the business that she's running. She's pitched. Now imagine you are a funder, some of you are funders right here, or consumers. What is it that you can give as advice to Dora? Or even asking questions which can then help her to take this business to where she wants to go in 2025. Most of us will be dead by then anyway. All right, okay, so let me see some hands in terms of your immediate responses to the pitch we got from Dora. Fantastic pitch. Please go ahead. Don't give us a long story, just a short.
Thank you, very good. You didn't tell me what you're giving me vis-a-vis the others in the market. So I'm in the market already. Why should I switch?
Think about that, Dora. Any other thoughts? I mean, our investors, where are our funders? Are they still here? Yeah? Would you support this business? Of course, he hasn't told us.
That would be the question.
Always. So first I want to tell you why you need to move away from what is in the market and switch to IPOP Africa, because what is available in the snacking market today is oil rich, it is salt, it has a lot of salt, it has a lot of sugar, and now what do I call it? The disease pattern is moving to non-communicable diseases. So today we find a lot of diabetes, hypertension, and that is, the epidemiologists or researchers can say it is associated with what we eat. So today we are telling you, you can snack, you can enjoy snacking, but snack healthy. That is the alternative we are giving you. And so today we are looking for about 5 million Kenya shillings because we want to invest in packaging machine, which is one of the machines that we do not have, but we also want to go to the mainstream market, which requires some investment.
So the packing machine or the production that will increase your production by X number. Can you provide a bit more information on that?
The packaging machine will particularly reduce the time we use in the facility. That means what we channel out every day will be higher than what we're channeling out right now.
What do you think about as you proceed further? Clearly you would hear questions of the value add and also immediately, yeah, you've told us impact, you've told us market, but what is excellent? Any other questions, comments? Great, let's put our hands together and wish you the very best. Moving on, who is next, Isabella? Okay. And by the way, these pitches are meant to be 3 minutes. 3 minutes, because in 3 minutes, if you don't catch the attention of your potential investors, they're gone.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Agribussiness, the co-founder and CEO of Agritech Africa. We are trying to come up with a smart business system for sustainable agriculture. We want to make agriculture more enjoyable. As you know, right now, the methods that are being used by the small-scale farmers is a bit tiresome and can lead to a lot of losses. So these are the problems that we are solving. We are used the manual labor from which takes around 60 to 40% of the income from the small-scale farmers. And then we are trying to reduce the cost of production, which increases the production cost by 10 and 15%. And then we are trying to reduce the losses of the input or output of the small-scale farmers by the 20% and that percent. Further, we are trying to reduce the water wastage from 33% during the irrigations. Which solution are we offering? We are offering what we call AquaSense irrigation kit. And what does this irrigation kit do? The first thing it does, it analyzes the soil content, the soil moisture content in the soil, and then it sends to our gadget, and then our gadget analyzes either to open or close the supply of water in the farm. We have connected the system with our phone, with your phone, so you can now remotely control what is happening in your farm at the area of your work. What makes us unique? Our system is environmentally sustainable because it uses our solar panel, precision for optimal water use. Our system only releases water in the farm when it's only needed, and it delivers crop-specific recommendation according to what is being needed in the farm. What else makes us unique is a custom-made smart irrigation system, and then a farmer can make informed decision according to his farm because he can see all the parameters which are in this farm on the areas of his work. What is our market opportunity? We are targeting 500 customers to start with because the first thing that we realized, adapting this changing the thinking of small-scale farmers, using the large group, it cannot be possible. So we have targeted small-scale farmers who are about 500 of them in the eastern of Kenya, e.g. Meru and the Isiolo County, where we want only to take 500 of them to start training them and show them how that smart irrigation works. Then we'll go further to eastern part of Kenya, where we'll take more and increase the number from 500 to 1,000. And then we'll go far to all part of Kenya. But in part of Kenya, I don't want to take the entire small-scale farming group, which is around 7.5 million. We want only to take 20% of 7.5 million, which will give us around 1.5 million. And now when you do the mathematics, when you say 280, our average revenue, times 1.5 million, you will get around metrics that will help us achieve this market opportunity. We have created Agritech Africa YouTube channel where you are educating farmers on the importance of modern technology in irrigation. This is our business development model where you will be selling smart irrigation to small-scale farmers, and then there will be a subscription fee in the small-scale farming from 2024 to 2027 and irrigate more than 1,000 acres. We will expand our team and generate more revenue. This is our team. It's a cutting edge of all professions, from hardware developers to electronics, software developers, agriculture, and accountants. We want to create an impact. We want to increase the income of small-scale farmers by 45%, and we want to increase the acreage and irrigation by 100 acres. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ayub. Who are the farmers in the room, in the house? The farmers. All right. Your comment. Would you buy this irrigation system?
I would, but my question is, how original is this idea? Because I've seen it so many times from so many other people, including even a study some of my colleagues did around it in terms of impact. Yeah. So, I mean, it's good, but, you know, what additional element is there over and above what these systems that I've seen pitched several times by others? Yeah.
Maybe you want to buy it. How much is your system?
Only one in the market. There are a few people offering smart IoT-empowered farm tools. But what is it about what you're doing that is unfair, that makes all the other suppliers say, what is he doing? It's rhetorical. You don't need to answer, but just something to think about, yeah?
Okay. All right. Do you have a microphone at the back there somewhere? Somebody help me. Microphone? Okay, I'll take a step. Maybe Ayub, just grab that microphone as soon as they finish, you can come in.
Just to add on to the question, he asked about pricing. Have you sold any kits to the farmers, and what has been their feedback, so that we know that there is a ready market for them?
Thanks for the good presentation. My question is around the issue of the water efficiency of this model, and the target areas that you've pointed, the Meru, the Isholos. What would be the source of water? Is it rain? Is it irrigation? There are already available irrigation systems there? That's my question. Thanks.
All right, so you can respond, choose the ones that you want to answer, the ones you can't answer, you can
Okay. For the pricing, I'll say per gadget, for a smart irrigation kit, it costs around $280, which is around 46,000 Kenyan money. And the second question was, what makes us unique? The first thing that makes us unique is that we are analyzing all the parameters in the farm, and you can make informed decision about those parameters while sitting in your office. You can either initiate irrigation or stop the irrigation while you are sitting in the office. That is what makes us unique. And the other thing, our system is solar powered.
I do actually agree with you, but most of the three things that you've mentioned are actually also in the other systems that I've seen, not just pitched, but that are being used actually in other places. Yeah, so I think in order not to belabor so much, just try to dig deeper and see something unique that can actually make somebody think twice about your innovation.
Just a quick question. Ayub, thank you for that presentation. My name is Gashiko Julie. With your kind of technology, how many would you need, or when you talk about $280, how much per acreage, how many would you need? And then, of course, when you talk about it's going to do the soil analysis, does it only just do the irrigation, that's what you're talking about, or does it also include other inputs that you can be able to input on your farm? Thank you.
For that question, our system only operates on irrigation. we are controlling irrigation remotely through the analysis of the soil content or soil moisture in the soil. Then at a area of pressure, you can automatically initiate irrigation or stop irrigation in your farm. And per acre range, the only thing that you need to increase is the number of moisture sensors in the farm. Like in 1 acre, you can use 3 of them.
Okay, one last one.
Thank you very much. I just want to know, I don't know, maybe you probably have touched on this already. Your gadgets, do you also provide maintenance for the gadgets?
Yes, we provide maintenance.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe that's something that you should also flag in your pitch to say we provide backup support in-house. Yeah. All right, let's put our hands together as we thank Ayub. Well done. Okay. And let's move on to our next SME. I like the gender distribution. Female, male, female. Okay.
Thank you. My name is Priscilla Wakarera. I am a soil scientist and the CEO and a co-founder at RIA, a soil health management company based out of Kenya that is transforming soil health management for smallholder farmers across Africa by creating accessibility to soil testing services. You see, smallholder farmers fail to soil test because they lack access to affordable, convenient, and timely soil testing services. Now, this is in a world where soil nutritional data would guide their crop suitability and fertilizer use. Currently, smallholder farmers are forced to send their soil sample to a wet chemistry lab that includes collecting the soil sample at the farm, packaging it, transporting it, having it at the lab, and the process of analysis takes typically between 14 days and sometimes up to months. This process is expensive, it's laborious, and it's also inaccessible to farmers who are located far away from the farm locations. We find that nearly 80% of Kenya's landmass is currently affected by land degradation. A majority of this is contributed to by the wrong use of inputs and also the overutilization of small parcels of land by smallholder farm nutrients. As a result, you find that we're resorting to very expensive importation, but also we lose about 3.6 metric tons of yield every single season, every single year, which results into a loss in economic value and food insecurity. Now, options. Through an innovative IoT soil analysis device that we have designed and built in-house, it utilizes sensors and allows us to conduct soil testing at the farm level and provide immediate recommendations on the type of fertilizers to use, in what rate and ratio of application, what to use to adjust your soil pH, as well as an irrigation schedule. And the device works in just 3 easy steps. You would need to collect a soil sample, aggregate it into a bucket at the farm. You would then insert the probes of the AgriPad into the soil sample and initiate a soil analysis. At this particular point, after reading the analysis, you would send this data to the cloud, to our recommendation software that will then compute and generate a recommendation. This can then be sent to farmers either through SMS. We have also built a WhatsApp chatbot that allows them to retrieve the farmers. For up, one of the devices at $800 offer custom packages on and not just ratio, that we require initiatives that promote better use of soil health and not just increasing the amount of fertilizers that farmers are using. So we would also look at the increase in population and the increase in food insecurity across different countries in sub-Saharan Africa. And also this is as a result of the negative climate change and on most livelihoods. So far, we have 2 pending product patents and are currently in our beta version of our product, which is the version 3. At every single stage between version 1 and version 3, we have conducted a pilot with paid customers, whereby we have iterated based off the market feedback. We have also gotten into partnerships that have allowed us to innovate during this period, and I've listed some of the key ones, but we've also gotten into partnerships that have allowed us to manufacture our devices more effectively, as well as access more farmers, for example, the East African Grain Council. We know that our solution works. We have received testimonials from different farmers that have interacted with our products. We are currently tracking metrics on impact, looking at improvement in soil fertility, improvement in economic value based off the inputs that they use and the output that they get from the yield, but also increase in total amount of yield per acre. We're currently farmers in six counties in Kenya, and have the plan to scale to 33 out in 2022, like I mentioned, with version 1 only offering on-site soil testing and no recommendations. We have iterated. In September 2024, we deployed the version 3 devices to the agro input shops. We are planning on rolling this out to increase the number of devices per county, but also with the different projects that we currently have running, looking to deploy into Uganda, as we have already deployed in Tanzania. We're also looking to add additional products into our offering, still aligned on soil health, and introduce bioinoculants by June 2027. A youth-led startup, we have a tech team, sales team, agronomists, soil scientists, as well as finance on our team. These are some of the farmers that we serve. And our ask for this forum, because of the people in the space, is specifically we have gone through an accelerator. And one of the things that we would ask is alignment, specifically in terms of agri-tech. And in alignment in agri-tech includes innovation and investment into hardware production. There's a lot of emphasis on tech-based products. But to be very realistic, if you have worked with smallholder farmers, a majority of what you will find is that you need tech-enabled product as opposed to just a tech product. Most of our farmers have low interact with and can't trust by touching. So we are asking for more investment into that space, but also programs that are tailored into Africa. We have limited resources. We would have to import prototyping and building devices together with the farmers. So we would like to get assistance in terms of ensuring that the alignment of the company is drawn towards how can you build a product for farmers, but within our current economic status and regional status. We are also looking at even a distribution network that can leverage some of the funders that support some of these accelerators that would allow us as companies, even as we build, to leverage that connection to scale more easily, but also to offer a more defined product. Thank you.
Thank you very much. But very quickly, a round of questions, suggestions.
Yeah, I think I really like this. I have just a technical question. So, and I'm sorry because I always fight for livestock. So I'm looking at this from a circular economy perspective, because I think this is based on a near-infrared analysis, isn't it? Just technical, because I'm looking at how this can be replicated for testing nutrients or feeds on farm. And because if livestock are releasing manure, that can go back into improving soil structure. So if you, and the same farmers who grow crops also keep livestock. And one of the things that most of the livestock farmers struggle with is determining the nutrient quantity of their feedstock. So if the same principle can be or replicated or for the product, but also will feed into this circular economy opportunity, which if you can think about it.
At the back. Yeah, okay.
Thank you very much for a very detailed presentation. Two questions, one on the financing side and then a bit on the technical. So first on the technical, do you provide an end-to-end solution? So for example, a farmer does the test and then they actually find out that they need several fertilizers. So do you give them access to the information on where to access the input? That's one, so that you have an end-to-end solution. And then on the pricing bit, I think you said $800, right? Because I think this is a bit higher on the smallholder farmer. Is there, or have you thought in terms of a pathway to sell this through cooperative societies where farmers can be able to access that kit and then return it?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's be very brief
can I
in our interventions. Yeah, please answer before you forget.
Okay.
Yes.
So to your question on the in terms of the feeds, in terms of the manure as well. So what we've done at every single stage is iterate so that we can improve on one, the accuracy of the devices that we are building, but also to incorporate what is already being used by farmers. So what we have done this year is we have built a calibration module that allows us to test for manure. So that has been one of the steps that we have put in place, because part of the feedback that we have received from smallholder farmers has been, I have 10 tons of manure. If I do get a fertilizer recommendation, what do I do with my manure, right? So we've also incorporated into our recommendation software an aspect that balances the use of the manure, but also together with the fertilizers that we do recommend. We are also working to integrate our recommendations in terms of organic fertilizer. We've seen an uptake of BSF FRAS from a majority of farmers currently, and we're looking to incorporate that as well into the recommendation. We're currently developing a calibration module for FRAS testing. To the question on the pricing. So the $800 pricing that we are doing is on a B2B aspect. So the $800 is not expected to be paid by the farmer, but rather to be paid by either an organization that works with a large number of farmers that would like to continuously offer soil testing, or directly to, in terms of creating more access, we lease our devices out at $150 every single year and provide additional income to agro input shops. And this model, what it has allowed to do is, because $800 is still a lot, even on a B2B aspect for an agro input shop as an upfront commitment, but $150 are more than they. There was another question. To combine them. On the end-to-end solution, because we use agro input shops, having the devices at the shop means that if a farmer walks into a shop, they can have their soil analyzed at the shop, and then to use the M-Pesa model, if you do get your report at the shop, chances are you will purchase that fertilizer at the same shop, and it also helps the shop to work around their inventory, especially for pH adjustment.
Right to the question or comment.
Okay, my comment is on the issue of the in farmer behavior, in the sense that the studies are showing that not most of the farmers, even when they get this recommendation, they are kept way of doing things. I don't know, maybe in the course of promoting your idea, of course we know the value of it, but changing that attitude and changing the mindset of the farm. Thank you.
Let's move on. I saw a hand here, then I'll come here, then I'll allow it to respond, and then we have 1, 2. That's it.
All right. Following up on the lease idea, because that's what one of the questions. So the $150 per year, is there a minimum lease period? So that's the first question. And the second question is, what do you benchmark your recommendations on? So if I'm farming, if I know that the best bananas are coming from a specific region in the world, and I want to replicate whatever it is in that soil, what is your benchmark? Do you have specific crop that you cover, or you cover all the crops? And if so, where do you get your benchmark from? Does it evolve? Does it stay the same?
Okay, great.
All right, thank you. Mine is not a question, it's just a short comment. I mean, the colleague from ILRI said he likes this. I love it, because I think this really responds to a need. We are not doing sufficient soil testing in Africa, so I think this is something that is very useful, and I can foresee it grow even bigger. And I think it also has even very important policy considerations for governments, because instead of just having, let's say, what subsidies for fertilizer. Governments can support farmers to have access to this service so that the subsidies become smart rather than just saying, okay, subsidies for fertilizer. So this is really something very good. I want to commend you for coming up with it, and I will.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Do you want to, in the meantime?
Yes. So there was a question around of people behavior in farmer culture, and it's one of the constraints that we see, and it's one of the constraints that most countries will see. So for example, if we issue out a fertilizer recommendation, so we know what the threshold for a typical, the best use fertilizer would be. So for example, if we do recommend farmers to use about 100 kilograms or 80 kilograms of fertilizer in an acre, a majority of them still use about 3 kilograms. When you look at the Maputo Declaration and our expectation currently for utilization of fertilizer, we're still very well below threshold. So what we've done is, one, incorporating manure and other organic inputs that are more affordable and accessible into our recommendation, then cuts the amount of fertilizer that a farmer should purchase initially. We're also working with other stakeholders to see, even with the fertilizer subsidy program, how can this be optimized so that farmers would be able to afford the right amount. We also have continuous trainings and support for the farmers that we serve, and that's why we have the chatbot as well, to ensure that in case a farmer needs extra support to ensure that they do utilize the recommendations that we're giving them, we can follow up on that. So there was also a question on if there's a minimum threshold. So when we charge $150 for the lease, it covers all the marketing materials that we provide to the shop. It covers branding for the shop. It covers sampling bags and other additional requirements that are required for that shop. So essentially, and also insurance for our devices. So essentially, we are not adding any other profit from the $150. It just allows for ownership for that. And if you were to consider a farmer, an agrovet shop conducting 25 tests at a minimum in a month and charging 2,000 Kenya shillings, then they would be able to recoup that money within either their first or second month. What was your last?
Yeah, a quick one. Yeah.
In terms of benchmarking for our recommendations, we have built our recommendation system using one local data that is contextualized for most regions. We've also added to include, so we currently only have 22 crops in our recommendation system. We're working to add on to the number of crops. The reason for this is because we started out with the crops that are most locally, which were just 3 counties, and then we keep adding onto that. We're using scientific publications. We've also collaborated with universities and other stakeholders.
Since you're selling it in Aggravate and so on, and when you got the one for Kenya, was that enough to use it to sell it in Tanzania? And how is it looking like as you think of scaling?
There was no standard for on-site soil analysis device. So what we've worked towards adapting other standards that can be contextualized of the work that we're doing in Tanzania. We're currently on a pilot basis. We first want to establish the usability of that particular device in that region, so we haven't gotten actual certification in Tanzania, but we're using it in an isolated case scenario, mostly for pilot data.
Okay. Just checking with you, when you're talking about iterations for your analysis, what are you benchmarking it on, and what is the percentage accuracy? Because I see you also do micro and macro nutrients, and comparing it to the wet chemistry that you're charging $45 for the full analysis. What would be the comparative, especially when talking about accuracy?
Okay, so our devices only conduct a macronutrient analysis, and the macronutrients are limited to nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. We also conduct pH analysis, soil moisture, soil temperature, and conductivity. In terms of the comprehensive analysis, then we conduct a macronutrient and micronutrient analysis, including the physical parameters as well. So when you compare the two, you get more value in terms of getting the comprehensive analysis and then going into the accuracy of our devices. So we have iterated multiple times. So what we found that is in terms of the sensor performance, we did find that we do get over 95% accuracy for the pH, electrical conductivity, soil moisture and soil temperature parameters. But when it comes to the macronutrients in terms of nitrogen and potassium, we are at a threshold of between 83 to about 87%. But then when it comes to phosphorus in our analysis, we're still just around the 60s. And this is something that we're continuously working on. So this is currently our beta product, and it's not currently on the shelf. It's something we're working towards to see how can we improve this. So how we've worked around it is we've built a calibration module with the current accuracy threshold. This has allowed us to have a comparative and in terms of lab tests, in terms of wet chemistry testing and our current testing, we're able to provide an acceptable range of accuracy because of the calibration.
Okay. Excellent. Let's put our hands together once more. Thank you so much. We have 2 more presentations to go. We are running way behind time. So I'm going to be extremely unfair to the last 2 presenters and ask them to stick to 3 minutes. Yeah, so we'll be timing them, and yeah. Okay, so that's democracy. Democracy says we are here. Is that fair? Is that carried?
Thank you. Thank you so much because of the opportunity. So my name is Patrick Mutahi Mudhoni, and I come from Mukurweini Oil Enterprises, where we empower farmers and build sustainable future for our country. What all the problem I faced in the rural area? One is that in the country, we are depending on rain-fed for our productivity. We are also affected by the climate change, like the other parts of the world. We also have challenges with human and wildlife conflict in our areas. So with that challenge, then another big challenge or a big problem is the livelihood of our small-scale farmers in our country. So when I saw that problem in the village, I thought, what can I offer to the community? It started like a project. What can I offer to the community so that they can have a livelihood? So that's where we started. And when I thought about it, I looked at what are we importing as a country. And I found that oil is the first product we're importing in the country. We also have cosmetics we're importing as a country. So that's where I found the opportunity now to be able to get the money, to get the money in the country instead of importing the oil. So I came up with yeah, thank you. So our solution is that we introduced a drought-resistant oil crops, that is sunflower and castor, in different parts of the country. And after introducing this, we ensured that the farmer has an income, whereby the oil crops are offering 3 times revenue compared to the traditional crops like maize, where we guarantee market after harvest. We are using a model of contract farming. Additionally, we do place the oil seeds, and we be able to manufacture edible oil, cosmetic, and biofuel. our value proposition with oil crops, with high demand of oil in the country, we found an opportunity to provide edible oil in the country using not the traditional methods of importing the seeds from outside the Kenya, processing, refining the oil. So as our model starts from the farm to the table. Another value proposition is that we found many of manufacturers in the country who are doing cosmetic. They were importing castor oil from India to come and manufacture the cosmetics in the country. So we saw that as a problem, and we found a solution to be able to supply to the cosmetic industry in the country. On biofuel, we found there is global demand for the biofuel in the country, mostly in UK, and we found an opportunity to be able to supply to global market the biofuel feedstock. The market opportunity in the country for the edible oil stands at 900,000 metric tons. That is the demand, and the market is projected to raise to 0.9 billion by 2028. Our competitive advantage is that we have a good network of farmers on the ground. We have about 20,000 farmers currently and working across 5 counties. The technology that we use to process our oil is through cold pressing. We cold press our oil, and I have a sample of the castor oil we cold press. And you can visit us outside here, and you can be able to taste our cold pressed oil. Environmental responsibility, with the opportunity of venturing into castor, we found it will be environmental. We are tackling on environment because, for one, the meal for the castor, we are selling to manufacturers of organic fertilizers. So meaning that meal is going back to the soil for organic fertilizer. We are importing fertilizer as a country. So we are bridging that gap on environment. So this is the team. I'm the founder. Patrick Mutahi, Pauline, Wamoyo is the manager. We also have Francis in charge of operations, and Eileen in charge of product development. And this is the only management. We have about 50 employees currently. So this opportunity has created employment to our young people in the country. And we are still growing day by day, and we are still recruiting more because the work involved in this value chain, one, and the major work is on managing the farmer. So we must have field officers in every village to be able to manage our farmers, from mobilization, where we start, recruitment, training. Then after training, we do also mapping those farms to ensure that farmers have planted and to ensure that they are growing. So that requires a lot of work. And with that work, we have turned it to an opportunity for our young people. So the impact we have had so far is that we have touched 20,000 farmers' livelihood, production of 300 metric tons of traceable sunflower cooking oil. We have been able to employ 60% of our employees are female, so gender equality have been achieved. And we have 50 full-time job opportunities and 75 part-time. And another impact is we have partnered with an Italian company which is doing biofuel in Italy, and they have a biorefinery, and we have been able to supply them the advanced biofuel feedstock for production of biofuel. Smart agriculture and carbon reduction via now the biofuel. Crop rotation and sustainable practices, and the strategic partnership I have just mentioned is part of the impact. So those are our contacts to reach us for engagement, for partnership. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Any responses, comments, questions? All right.
Hi, this is Hannah from DEG Impulse. I'd be interested to understand how you press your oil. Do you do it centrally or decentralized, and how do you ensure the quality?
So we placed our oil using the cold pressing machine, so we don't use a lot of heat. And immediately we place it, we do filtration, and then we package for different customer segments.
Great. I think we can move on. Excellent metrics that we're getting from Patrick in terms of employment numbers and huge potential in the business that the young man is running. Well done. Thank you so much. All right, so let's now move to our last pitch. Yes. No. We need translation.
All right. Okay. So, growing up in Makueni County, Kenya, I've seen how our dry and harsh environment shapes our lives. Here, we cherish every drop of water and every bit of food that we grow. Our smallholder farmers work tirelessly to make the most out of the little that we have. Yet, we still face major challenges like post-harvest losses, which makes most of our food go to waste, and the negative impact that the use of outdated energy sources like firewood and charcoal has on our environment as well as our health. I've watched my community suffer using firewood and charcoal to prepare meals, and this fills our home with smoke and poses health risk to us. I've always wondered if there was a way of converting this problem into opportunity. At Elixir Biotechnologies, we are driven by the desire to bring positive change in the community. We believe in transforming problems into opportunities. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Valerie Nyandwaro, the CEO and founder of Elixir Biotechnologies. I'm not sure. I don't know how to. 22,000 tons of agricultural waste is generated daily in Kenya. 38% of this waste is either not collected nor disposed properly, ending up in landfills, causing methane gas emissions, leading to climate change. Here's another crisis. 80% of Kenyan households still rely on clean energy sources like firewood and charcoal. Okay. But here's the twist. At Elixir Biotechnologies, we are converting fruit waste, and for the briquette formation, we use things like sisal waste. We usually utilize whatever we can get, because wherever I'm from, it's a dry place, and we're trying to utilize any waste that we can be able to find. After we've been able to collect and sort it, in the process of ethanol formation, it undergoes extraction of sugars through hydrolysis process, like you're splitting down complex sugars into simple sugars, and then it undergoes fermentation, which takes to ethanol formation, as well as the ethanol stoves and the cooking briquettes are then distributed, and the impact is felt. Cooking solution use clean traditional fuels like firewood and charcoal. So our target market are 500,000 rural households, with women being their contact persons because they are involved in the cooking process each and every day. And we aim to reach them through demonstrations. In Makueni County, specifically where I live in Kibwezi, Friday is the market day. So to get our women there, it's usually on Fridays. And then we also aim to reach them through referrals. So this is the existing addressable market for us. There are approximately 20 million rural households in Kenya, with 3 million of them being in the eastern region and 500,000 of them being in rural Makueni. So this is how we generate our revenue. Currently, we're selling the cooking briquettes at $0.50 per kg. We are planning to sell our ethanol biofuel at 0.80 liters and the cooking stove at $10 per stove. These ones are still in the prototyping phase. So far, this is what we've been able to achieve. We've been able to conduct customer research late last year and early this year. We prototyped cooking briquettes in early this year and tested the briquettes with 50 users in May and June, with 96% of them showing purchase intent. We've engaged 50 customers in August and September. We are currently prototyping the cooking stoves to be made compatible with ethanol. and we fundraised 700 USD by 54 collective VC. So this is how our scalability looks like. In 2023, we plan to launch prototype and proof of concept as well as gather user feedback. This year, we had planned to expand to Makueni, serve at least 100 customers, scaling production and form partnerships. And next year, preparing for expansion to other rural areas such as Kitui, Machakos, and serve at least 300 customers. And in 2026, we are scaling a full rollout, broadening distribution, and implementing scalable manufacturing. So this is the impact that we bring to the table. We're reducing indoor air pollution with ethanol stove and cooking briquettes. That is, we are promoting good health and well-being. We're cutting down deforestation using ethanol by fuel and briquettes. That is promoting life on land. And we're promoting efficient resource use with high-performance products, therefore encouraging responsible consumption and production. We are empowering sustainable cities and communities through waste repurposing and sustainability. And we are creating income opportunities and jobs for the community. That is encouraging the decent work and economic growth. And we are offering cost-effective cooking solution that is affordable and clean energy through the use of cooking briquettes and the biofuel. Yes, thank you, and join us in transforming waste into work. I know you'll ask about the team and everything else. I just wanted to shorten the whole thing.
Thank you so much, Valerie, for that very interesting presentation. Any comments, questions to Valerie? Yeah, okay. Is there a mic at the back? No.
Congratulations. Just a question on the customers that you mentioned. You have 54 customers. You've tested on 54 customers. Are they all from households, or have you also reached out to schools? Because I spoke to someone earlier today who was selling briquettes, and they were talking about secondary schools being a potential market to explore.
Yeah, you can respond. I think that's only hand. Okay, there's another hand. All right, so let's have that.
Hi, my question is on the, how does it compare on the market? I know you had a slide over there, and it was something about 50 cents per kilo. It was 80, did I see right? Or is it the other way around? So who is your target market? Is it like the masses? Or is it more of your higher level, higher income people? And also, what is your plan in terms of collection? Is it a sustainable, do you have a sustainable and affordable way to collect the waste? Because there's transport involved. How do you go about it? How do you make it cost effective?
So the two questions.
Okay, so you asked about us exploring like the schools and everything, right? So currently we are focused on the rural households, especially the women who are actually actively involved in the cooking process. For the schools, we have not yet, probably it's a potential target customer, but for now we want to focus more on the rural households first, and then probably we can consider that as time goes by.
All right, so the question is on your pricing, and then the other one was on your collection of waste. Yeah, how you're going about that.
So for the collection of waste, I can say it's sustainable because you have different seasons for different plants, and for us, we are utilizing almost everything that is in that particular season. So for the sustainability, I can guarantee, yes, that is certain. Could you please repeat the question on the pricing? I didn't really get it.
Yes, the pricing was, if obviously you are supplying the rural, I would assume is lower income. However, your price is higher than what is on the market, if I understand properly. And following up on your answer on the waste collection, I don't know if it's different from South Africa, but in other African countries, in Cameroon, all the waste is together. So when people discard everything is in there. You've got the plant material, you've got the plastic, you've got everything. So is it that here you guys have a place where you do just the plant material where you go and collect, or is there, so is that how it works here?
Okay, yeah, that is how it works. So for the pricing, I don't think it's actually high because it's like in Kenyan shillings, it's 60 Kenyan shillings per kilogram. Yeah, which is actually affordable for us. I'm not sure, probably I did the whole calculation on the USD thing wrong, or probably the exchange, whatever. is not favoring the country that you're from.
All right. Excellent. Let's put our hands together once more as we invite our last pitch. Mike. Use this or you want me to move?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Did you know that bees pollinate a third of the food we eat? However, according to the United Nations, 40% of all bee colonies collapse every year, 60% in Africa, and it's no different here in Kenya.
We have 1 minute, please. Let's have 1 minute. Thanks.
Colony collapse disorder, which is the collapse of bees across the globe, is a major environmental issue with significant implications on the ecosystem, food security, and agriculture. And one of the major reasons why this is happening is because the beekeepers lack the proper technology to be able to keep healthy bees, hence causing the farmers to lack bees for pollination. My name is Charity Wairimo. I'm a co-founder at Pollen Patrollers. Pollen Patrollers is an all-women founded startup that leverages technology to help beekeepers keep healthy bees. We also offer precise pollination for small-scale farmers. So how we are able to do this is we have developed a patented smart device that is placed under the roof of the beehive. The device leverages IoT technology to be able to capture detailed metrics like humidity, temperature, foraging activities, sound, and even movement inside the beehive. And this information is sent to the beekeeper's phone via simple SMS with the problem and the solution so that they can be able to intervene on the condition of the hive. The device you're seeing there, this one, this was our first generation. We have the second generation, which is there outside. It is smaller, and it can fit perfectly inside the roof of the beehive. For the precision pollination, what we do is we connect the beekeepers and the small-scale farmers. So the beekeepers deliver the bees to their farm, and through our precision pollination technology that is powered by artificial intelligence, we are able to map up the whole farm to identify the optimal location for the hive placement, and using our AI algorithm, the farm data is processed. So we identify like the bloom schedule, the crop type, and we continue monitoring on our dashboard the activities that are happening on the farm, hence pollination takes place effectively. Our value proposition includes innovative technology, affordability and ease of use, and also the holistic approach. This is whereby we train farmers on sustainable agricultural practices, and our theory of change targets their practices, attitudes, and even knowledge. So for our market traction, we have safeguarded it to target Kenya, Tanzania, and Ethiopia, 4,000 beekeepers, and 10 million small-scale farmers by the year 2027. Currently, we are serving over 15,000 beekeepers and small-scale farmers. We also help to boost food security, since beekeepers who use our devices have recorded a 33% increase in their revenue, and the small-scale farmers have recorded a 50% increase in their crop yield. On the environmental front, we are stopping 127 tons of carbon dioxide from being emitted. This information was given by the impactfocus.com. And through our social initiative, dubbed, which is hashtag Patrollers for Her, this is a campaign whereby we empower women and girls on sustainable, on how to install our devices. Then they are placed as field agents in their communities, so they earn a predictable and consistent income. Our partners, we have Halcyon, Microsoft, and our team comprises of women who are passionate about agriculture, serial entrepreneurs, and engineers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Margaret. Don't go. They are going to interact with you. Do we have any comments, suggestions for Margaret?
Charity. Yeah, I'm sorry for the confusion.
Charity, how are you?
I'm good.
You are not charitable with the size of the font. aside that everything was perfect for me, you know, usually people think that bees don't need taking care of because they take care of themselves. And as you said, we are seeing a lot of challenges with keeping bees. So this is very, very good. But do you have any data on yields, for example, of those who have used your devices? So if the person got, say, 10 liters per annum, after using this, have they been able to care for the bees better? And what have their yields been like? Have they increased, or they are around the same 10 liters?
Yeah, thank you for the question.
Yeah, so apart from the revenue, the 33% revenue you talked about, what other metrics?
So when the bees pollinate their farms, they get a 50% increase in their crop yields.
How about
honey production. So the honey production increases since our devices helps the beekeepers to be able to monitor the beehive. So like in case of like honey buggers or attacks on the beehive, they are able to know and to prevent the attack prior. So their honey automatically increases since the bees are active.
Excellent. Any other comments, questions? Super. Thank you so much, Charity, for that very interesting presentation. So the thing is with these SMEs that have been pitching, they're not just doing it for us to feel, okay, they're demonstrating something. There is a business motive behind it. And we are hoping, as you were listening, as you were engaging, you could have seen some potential opportunities for them in terms of networking, or giving them some ideas on how they could take some of their proposals to market or to reach the vision that they have set up. So please, let's engage with them. Let's get their details if we think you are in a position to network and to work with them in terms of improving their businesses. Let me thank E for Impact, who have been working with these entrepreneurs for doing such a fantastic job. I think they deserve a big round of applause from us for taking us this far. We're now coming to the tail end of our engagement. I think some people have said that we're now ending. You want to continue another day or 2 days more? Okay, so as we now close, I'm just waiting for Kyle to bring up something. We will be inviting some colleagues to come up and give us the final remarks, but we do have a very quick survey that we would want you to complete, just to give us a sense of some items that we need to improve on in terms of how which you can then give us some feedback. Okay, so that's the QR code. Meantime, just quickly take that